Okay, the discussion today about champagne. Really, champagne is a place name, and true champagne should only come from the delimited Champagne AOP in the country of France, which is one of the northernmost wine-producing, grape-growing regions in France, noted by its very cool and marginal climate and chalky, mineral-driven soils. Typically, you find 3 main grapes, although there are 7 that are allowed for champagne production, but 3 main grapes are used, which are Chardonnay grapes, which are the backbone grapes that are only allowed for Blanc de Blanc champagne, so white wine from white grapes. There's also 2 red varietals that are allowed. There is Pinot Meunier and Pinot Noir. The key for champagne production from those red grapes is to press the grapes early after harvesting, after the grapes are hand harvested, to minimize the amount of color and tannin extraction that you get from the red grapes. So they make a white wine from red grapes, which are known as Blanc de Noir grapes. Champagnes, excuse me. There are 2 main types of champagnes that you can find readily available on the market today. Probably the most well known is the Négociant Manipulant champagnes that are also known as the Big House champagnes. You can find them readily available at most of supermarkets and liquor stores and things along those lines. Most people are familiar with these labels. These are the houses like Veuve Clicquot, Moet and Chandon, where you find the champagne house itself purchases the majority of its grapes from different grape growers in the Champagne region. Another type of champagne that you can find is the Recollant Manipulant, which is the grower-producer champagnes, which is something that I'm more personally a fan of. They, by law, have to grow 95% of their grapes, and then they make the champagne themselves personally in the winery that they own. And so you find much smaller production from these grower producers. They typically are very high in quality. The price point is oftentimes very similar, if not more affordable than some of the big house champagnes that are more recognizable. But in my opinion, the quality is higher for the grower producer champagnes. And the real key to finding grower producer champagnes is you look for the initials RM on the label. A couple of recommendations for grower producer champagnes that I am a big fan of. Probably one of my favorites is Guy Lemondier champagne. He is a grower producer. It's his Blanc de Blanc non-vintage brut style, so it's a dry style champagne made from 100% Chardonnay grapes. It's very high in acid. You get a nice mineral content to it, a nice bit of the yeastiness along with a yellow apple and pear flavors. Another grower producer champagne that I would highly recommend is Eric Rodez. Both of these champagnes you can find fairly easily and with a little bit of looking, and typically they're in the $50 or under price point, just depending on where you locate them. So for the value, they over-deliver on the quality. With champagnes, typically you will find a range of sweetness levels that exist for the champagnes in the finished product. Most common is the brut style of champagne, where it just says brut on the label. This wine generally is a drier style for most people's palates, although there are several different ranges of sweetness levels, from the driest being sans dosage, where there is actually no sweetness that is added back into the finished champagne. So it's a very dry style, not something that you find a whole lot, ranging through brut, extra dry, and then there's several different levels, with the sweetest being Doux champagne. Doux champagne typically it has 50 grams per liter or more of residual sugar, and so it's a much sweeter style of champagne. So you can find a wide range of sweetness levels in champagnes, but most commonly you will find the brut style, which most people associate with the drier style of champagne. Veuve Clicquot would be more of the brut style. I think it's a very popular champagne, and so typically it would have, I think, a slight bit more of sugar than what you would find. There's a variance that is allowed for the amount of grams per liter of residual sugar that you will find in the champagnes, but it definitely would qualify more into their house brut style, which is the drier style for Veuve Clicquot. Bruts, people on their palate they're able to detect levels of sweetness ranging from 1.5% up to 2.5%. So something that I would consider to be sweet, some people might consider to be dry, just based on what their threshold for detection of sweetness is. In brut champagne, you are allowed a variance to still be considered brut, so you might find some that are on the sweeter end of the brut classification. Some people might consider that to be sweeter or more fruit-driven. Other people might consider that to still be a dry style champagne. So really, a lot of what people detect as sweetness just is based off of your own personal threshold level for sweetness.